Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to talk about today is 5 things that I feel would be wise for all of us to stock up on. And there's reasons behind this because, food security has become a very weighty buzzword. Splashed across front page of, articles, whether it's in a newspaper, in a magazine, online, whatever. Since the start of the pandemic. And food security is actually defined when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutrition food that meets their dietary needs and food preferences on for an active and healthy lifestyle. Okay, so food items that many people depend on, like wheat, and corn, have been in jeopardy, and shortages like this have in some cases led to panic buying and some frantic behavior. Like last month, there was some alarm in the United States that the federal government had declared a major food emergency in at least 6 states. And it turns out that these were actually haying and grazing emergencies instead, meaning that because of drought in these areas, grazing would be allowed for livestock on land previously set aside for conservation. So while there may not be a public emergency currently at play here, the world is certainly still dealing with what has been called a global food crisis. And there are food shortages, which Americans will likely continue to face into the year of 2024. So the first one is rice. A shortage of rice is still on the table into the second half of 2023. And the world's rice supply has been ravaged, not only by the invasion, but like damaging weather in major rice producing countries like China and Pakistan as well. And now even more concerning factors are at play here. El Nino, a weather pattern that results in atypical warming of the weather surface in the eastern Pacific Ocean, began to emerge again at the beginning of the summer, causing even more variable weather for many countries. India, they also announced in July that it would halt its exports of all non-basmati white rice in order to protect its own stockpile and its own resources. And I talked about that in a video back then when it was announced. And some areas of the world have felt these effects more than others. But for most, the largest issue will continue to be the damage to your wallet. At the global level, the most evident impact of the global rice deficit has been and still is decade high rice prices. So the next one is pasta. I know, you're saying, oh, it can't be true, but yeah, it actually is. The pasta problem in Italy actually got so bad this year that the country's government met for crisis talks back in May in order to stop it from boiling over even more. And during these emergency meetings, officials found a heightened cost of ingredients, like the pasta's main component, which is wheat, as well as increased packaging and logistics prices to be at the heart of the issue. So overall prices and the hikes were passed onto consumers all throughout the country. And some areas, like the province of Siena and Tuscany, reported an increase of over 50% just alone on pasta. So Americans, we haven't felt these effects heavily yet, and I stress yet, but since pasta is not like a core cuisine on menus like the same way that it is in Italy, but that's not to say that the United States has been completely in the clear, because we're not. The cost of spaghetti and macaroni or pasta just in general in the United States has risen to an average of $1.47 a pound in 2023. Now compare that to the average cost of $1.21 per pound during the same time last year. And since the price of wheat has begun to fall in recent months, Italy has, well as other pasta loving countries, should start to feel some relief soon, but it could take some time. So the next one is chocolate. I know, our beloved chocolate. Last year, Hershey set off a panic when it warned of a possible candy shortage leading into Halloween, if you remember that. But the problem was unique to the chocolate manufacturer, a byproduct of higher demand and supply chain issues. And the story seems to have ended happily, with most Americans still getting their fill of sweets during the holiday. But our chocolate woes have not all melted away quite yet. And this time, the dilemma is much more widespread. You see, cocoa has become a hot commodity. And the prices, the current prices, are the highest they have been in New York in nearly 12 years. And even the higher in other parts of the world, including London. Since cocoa is such a fertilizer dependent crop, the problem was sparked by the invasion and the decrease in exports, which resulted from the incursion. Last year's droughts exacerbated the situation, affecting the yields, and El Nino additionally threatened to decimate the production. And the phenomena tends to cause drier weather conditions throughout West Africa, including areas of Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria, and the Ivory Coast, which together are responsible for about 75% of all the world's cocoa production. And the concurrent sugar shortage because of bad weather and less exports coming in from India and unwavering demand certainly does not help with this chocolate catastrophe either. So the next one is salmon. The saying, "there are plenty fish in the sea," is starting to lose some of its meaning. The fishermen in both California as well as Alaska have noticed a steep decline in salmon populations over the past year, with Chinook and king salmon taking the hardest hit. This is one of the healthiest and largest salmon species that is commonly found at grocery stores and often served at restaurants here in the US. The number of 3-year-old run Chinook likely to return to the Sacramento River this year to spawn would be fewer than 170,000, one of the lowest forecasts in 15 years. And in Alaska, it's more of the same. So the reason, for the decline likely has to do with warmer waters, droughts in California, and factors such as overfishing and pollution and disease have also been detrimental. So in order to protect the remaining population, California officials have moved forward with banning both commercial and recreational salmon fishing for the entirety of 2023 fishing season. And this is the first time a ban like this has occurred since 2008, I believe. So the next one and the final one is flour. The price of flour is already up 8.5% compared to last year, and Americans will continue to feel the effects of the flour shortage into 2024. And this could additionally spell trouble for many of our beloved foods like bread, pizza dough, pancakes, cookies, baked goods of all kinds. And the underlying cause is, of course, droughts that are happening right here in the United States. 2 of the 3 main varieties of wheat, which are hard red winter, hard red spring wheat, are primarily grown in the South and the Central states, an area which has faced extremely dry conditions over the past year. The USDA estimates that there is an astounding 75% of the wheat growing in these regions are currently experiencing drought conditions. So, with all of this being said, please do yourself a favor and stock up while you still can, while the prices are still on a decent level, okay? All right, guys, that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one, okay? You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fearless. Ciao.